All right, so Street Fighter V is on its way out, and I feel like there's some thoughts I want to get off my mind while we are here, right? And what I want to do is talk about some of the things that I've achieved playing this game, how this job has helped me achieve my dream job, like my career job, what I do as a job every day, how Street Fighter V has impacted that and helped me get there. And then also just some thoughts on what I look forward to in Street Fighter 6 and my own personal goals. So hello and welcome to FGC Philosophy. My name is Tavian the Philosopher Napier. If you don't know, I am the assistant director, basically the person who oversees the esports program, but the assistant director of esports and arena at Western Michigan University. I help run the Kalamazoo fighting game community, and I've just been a gamer in the scene for a long time. I've been doing these podcasts and videos for a while now, and I have a lot of experience in esports and fighting games. I'm not the best. I have a lot of experience with coaching, but yeah, Street Fighter V is where a lot of my success started, right? And in order to tell that story, I got to backtrack a little bit. And one thing I want to do before that is talk about one of my sponsors, right? Plug real quick, get it out the way now, and then we'll go on. But I use this every day. Every single day I use it. It is called Audible. I don't have time to read, and also I don't know why, but it's hard for me to read words nowadays. It's really a struggle. My brain doesn't process it. So when I'm working out, sometimes doing yard work, which is very frequent, or furniture restoration, whatever it may be, I'm listening to an audiobook, whether it be a fantasy or a self-help book. I'm listening to something. And what you can do, if you've never tried it, you can go to taviannapier.com/audible and try it for a month for free. If you get it, then great. It's like $7 a month for the regular version and like $15 for the premium. You get a free book every month, so it actually pays for itself as long as you're buying a book over like $8. So it's worth it there. I'll buy a book every month. I'm always using my tokens. But you can go there, get a free month. If you keep it for, I think, like 3 months and you like the service, then I actually get a commission, which is really awesome. But you also have something that is really great. Now, that aside, because I usually go in depth about the books, but I'm going to keep it short on that part. We are doing this live. Normally, I just pre-record this and then have my editor upload it or edit it and then send it back to me and I upload it. But for today, we're live. We're going to go ahead and jump right into some of these points. And what I want to do is give a little bit of context, a little bit of backstory to how I got to Street Fighter V in order to talk about these other topics. Now, I won't give the whole entire story, but I will just talk about some of the highlights. I've been playing fighting games my whole life, but I didn't really get serious until I had a short stint living here in Michigan back in like 2011, 2012. I was working at GameStop, transferred here from Alabama, and I wound up running into some people who are really big into fighting games. There was one guy in particular, Mark, aka Master Shake. He started doing, I don't remember what it was called originally, but he did the House of M, basically, House of Mark, but also he's a big nerd when it comes to comics and stuff. So it's like a double play, right? House of M. And I think it used to be on Sundays, and then eventually it was on Mondays. But this was like 2011, 2012. And ran into his friends, and they started doing the locals, and I was in on it. I was playing it. There was like DOA 5 or 4, the second to last one. There was like Tekken 6. Street Fighter 4 was out, but I don't think that was the big thing. Marvel was the big thing for sure. A lot of Marvel, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, right? And a bunch of other games like Smash. Smash was almost always there. It had its own room, but we always had Smash as well as other fighting games. And, I started leveling up there a little bit, got to know all the people there, but then I had to move, right? A lot of circumstances happened, and I wanted to move over to San Diego. I lived there for about 3 years. I had only been living in Michigan for like 5 months at this point, and I moved to San Diego. Things didn't work out there. Very expensive. I had a crazy game developer boss or CEO that I'll share that story another time if you don't know it. But yeah, so what happened was when I was like 24, 25, I moved back in with my parents. They were living in Michigan at the time. And I got a job at Lowe's. And I decided that I wanted to be a life coach, or at least wanted to get the training of a life coach. So I went back to school, spent about 1.5 years, 2 years working on my certifications and my training there, while paying for it through going and working at Lowe's. After like a month or 2 weeks, I think, of living with my parents, I love my parents, but I don't want to live with them. So I quickly, like I was hurting pridefully just moving into them, but then just living with them wasn't working out. So wound up moving in with Mark from the House of M. So they were doing weekly still, and I got back into it. At this point, Ultra Street Fighter V was out. I can't remember when I moved, but like 2012 was when I moved. So Ultra wasn't out yet, but yeah, Ultra Arcade Edition, whatever the heck it was called. And so I was getting into that. Marvel had kind of died down at this point, and this was before Street Fighter V was announced. So I was just kind of grinding out Ultra, playing a couple other fighting games like DOA and stuff like that, and just really trying to go and compete. And what happened was I went to Combo Breaker 2015, I think it was my first ever like fighting game tournament outside of just like local tournaments, nothing like big. This is my first major, right? Fun experience, changed my life, made me want to get into content creation, made me really want to compete. I sat down, played Ultra Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 4 for my tournament, and the first match that I played, I won. And that feeling hooked me forever into fighting games. I already loved fighting games up until that point, but it was more of a casual thing where I never saw myself competing consistently. But just living with a bunch of people who did tournaments every single day, being around people who played fighting games almost every day, being able to grind with people and play by myself in my own room. When Street Fighter 6 came out, or Street Fighter 5 came out, I was with my regular group, and one of them was that Zangief player that I talked about. There was another player that played Seth. I think the Zangief player also played Guile. My buddy Mark, he played a couple different characters. I can't remember who he played, but yeah, I wasn't having the success that I wanted in 4 in Ultra. I never really could pinpoint it until after I started playing 5. So 5 gets announced, you fast forward, I get 5 day 1, I'm playing it every single day on PS4, got to gold. And along the way, I'm doing my locals every day. I started getting better and better and better with Fong. I had intended on playing Karine, but she was just too hard at the time. So I was like, you know what, let me just try some other characters, fell in love with Fong, and the rest is history, right? I just kept grinding the game, and I was at my locals, but then eventually circumstances happened where, I was with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and we wanted to move in together. And then also, my other roommates were also wanting to move and do their own thing. Mark moves to South Bend, Indiana. I moved to Kalamazoo. But I was still working and commuting in, it's called St. Joe, Benton Harbor area. It's about a 45-minute drive every day to and from. And that was enough for me to not want to do that. So I eventually wound up quitting my job and getting another job. And a long time, because I was doing B2B, business to business, I ended up running into this building that wasn't open yet, but it had a phone number and was a gaming lounge. So I immediately reached out to them, got in contact with them. When they opened up, I was like, hey, this is who I am. I want to do fighting games. I want to start locals. We started up over at Glitch Gaming Lounge. And we worked together. We started an FGC, and it started to grow. It wasn't as successful as us or the business owners wanted it to be. And in the long run, we wound up kind of canceling that relationship. But luckily, LFG Bar was opening up around the same time. So we kind of migrated from one venue to the other. And that's where we've been growing strong ever since. The pandemic hit, though, and that all sucks. But that's how the FGC got started. In that time, I don't remember where it was. I'm pretty sure I was living in Kalamazoo at this point. But my buddy was doing a tournament at like an anime convention or a expo type of thing. It was a smaller one, but it was like a good group of people. Some of them that I knew, some of them that I didn't. And this was the day where I got my first tournament win. And what was crazy though was that it was Street Fighter 5, which I had to beat people who had been beating me consistently for a while. So that it felt good. Like I had to beat people. I had to train to get better than them. And that just felt like this huge accomplishment. If you go to my Twitter, it's on the pinned post. I try to remember that just so that I can stay humble and keep hustling and keep working towards getting better, whether it be fighting games or career, or right now I'm working on a lot of health stuff. But that just reminds me, like, that feeling of winning a tournament. Now, I did win Street Fighter 5 and Dragon Ball FighterZ that day. And so it was like a double whammy. So I got my first tournament win in Street Fighter, and then my second one on the same day in Dragon Ball FighterZ. And that was like a moment that changed for me. And since then, I've won several of the other like locals or monthlies and stuff like that. And I've seen growth. But those wins inspired me along the way to start making content. I started making YouTube content where I was interviewing, players, commentators, tournament organizers, and it was called FGC Philosophy. The actual first episode that I did, it wasn't an FGC Philosophy, it was an interview, but it was actually with Doc Mack from Galloping Ghost Arcade, because he also supported a fighting game. So that's kind of how I got into it. But I was also just there, I think, on a fighting game tournament. No, I was actually there on life coach training. It was a 3-day seminar or training camp, and I just took some time off after we were done. We do it from 8 to 5 or 8 to 6, and I have free time in a hotel in Chicago. So I was like, let me go to this arcade and check it out. I think I had been there once or twice before with the FGC buddies when we went to Combo Breaker, which is near Chicago. The Galloping Ghost Arcade is also in Chicago, if that wasn't obvious. But yeah, that video blew up, and that kind of pushed me more to want to keep making content. So I started doing fighting game focused content at the time, which is kind of why I called it FGC Philosophy, because I was changed my name to the Philosopher when I moved to San Diego, came back, I had the new gamer tag, started working on that branding, and I started seeing a lot of success. My locals were growing, my content was growing. Around this point, I had hit 1,500 subscribers, right? It was in May, I hit 1,000, May 2018. Yeah, May 2018 is, I think, when I hit 1,000 subscribers, and that was a huge accomplishment for me. And I was still growing. I was getting posted on different websites. My videos were getting shared all over, and I was getting thousands and thousands of views. And I just had this crazy momentum. And then along the way, I meet this one person, teach him how to play Street Fighter, because I'm always teaching people how to play whatever games I can to the level that I can. And so I just train somebody, don't think anything of it. And then one day he comes back with somebody else, and they tell me, hey, apply for this job. They don't really give me much information. They're not allowed to. So they just say, hey, I would like you to apply for this job. And the person that came in that was telling me to apply was someone that I had reached out to before for this university doing some esports stuff. And I just wanted to know more about it and let them know who I was. And so it just kind of worked out that the person I taught to play Street Fighter was this guy that I had met before. And I guess, that person, Michael Sisk, he's actually part of this FGC, MG Sisk. Rest in peace to his wife. Unfortunately, she passed away, and that's terrible because he's such a great person. And that's a huge tangent where I just have so much respect for this person, so much admiration for this person. And or Prismatic one is what he used to also go by. But either way, I guess he must have said something to my boss. I don't think I ever really found out what he had mentioned or what, but I applied, and a bunch of other people applied, and I wound up getting that job. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. Different title, pretty much the same position in a way. I have more responsibilities now, which I welcome. But yeah, since then, I kind of everything else became an afterthought. My content wasn't my main priority anymore, because working at Lowe's for 4 years, I needed to decompress and work on something creative while I worked on this, because I was training in fighting games, I was going to life coaching school, I was working at Lowe's, but I also wanted more, and I didn't know what it was. So I started just talking to people who were where I wanted to be, or where I would be interested in being if I went that direction, whether it be commentary, which I've dabbled in and gotten paid doing that, whether it be competing, which I obviously have done that, or tournament organizing, which I've done that. And so I had accumulated this wide range of skills at this point in 2018 that made me the perfect candidate for this job. And I hadn't really even meant to do that or realize it. I knew I was wanting to train skills so that I could be more valuable, but this just sort of happened, right? And that changed my life. And, I got laid up during the pandemic and hired back as soon as they opened the program back up. So I'm so grateful. But that all started with Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5, and basically Capcom fighting games in general, because I also played Ultimate in Alabama and trained and met some really great friends. One friend who I used to play Marvel with, me and my other buddies, he also passed away, Silver Dongle, aka Big Steve, Stoner Steve, rest in peace. I gained so many friends through Capcom games, through Street Fighter 5, which I had been playing since day one. So, I just got done doing my last stream with Street Fighter, I think. I'm going to go to Combo Breaker this weekend, and then I got to get right into work. So I don't think I'm going to be playing a lot of Street Fighter 5, and probably not streaming it until 6 comes out. And I hope to do some 6 content. I hope to be more involved in the Street Fighter 6 tournaments. But yeah, that's how Street Fighter has impacted me. And Street Fighter 5 in particular was a game where I felt like I saw that transition from a player who is a novice to an intermediate. Gears started clicking in my head that didn't click before. Things started to, I started to get better. I started to get a lot more consistent even in other fighting games. My logic, my game sense just got so much better. And it was just playing Street Fighter from day one all the way up to where I am now. I took a long break after this pandemic just because of a lot of stuff that was going on in my personal life. But I feel very attached to 5. People have their gripes about the game. I loved it since day one. I understood the ire from a lot of other people, but I just felt like it was not deserved to the mechanics of the game, right? There were a lot of other things that could be critiqued, and they were critiqued, but in terms of the gameplay, I was happy with it. Pros or people who were like old school fighting game fans, they didn't have, they didn't like it for one reason or another, but it wasn't for them. Oh well. But for me, it really helped me get to that next level of fighting games and really helped me solidify that this is something that I want to do and something that I want to take serious, whether it be competition or otherwise. And that leads me into my last topic, which is, what do I want to get out of Street Fighter 6? And the honest, quick answer is I don't know. I know that I want to be involved in Street Fighter 6, but I'm hesitant to set goals just because of how much time I'm allocating to family, work, and home ownership. So I fear that I won't be able to commit consistent time. So I'm trying to get the other parts of my life really hammered down in terms of time management so that I can set aside some time for games like Street Fighter 6. And then also I want to stream and make content. I want to make some gameplay content for my son more than anything else. Like, I don't really want to make any money off of it, but I do want to work on my craft. And so I really am focused on getting my other areas of my life hammered down. My career, my family, home ownership takes a lot of time. I do a lot of yard work. So yeah, that's kind of the off goal for Street Fighter 6 for me, is that I want to be able to grind a little bit more in the game. I want to be able to play against high level players in Street Fighter 6. That's sort of my goal always in fighting games. And it hasn't changed, but I also have the goal of enjoying the process along the way and making sure that I have a well-rounded grasp of the game. I think I like this game enough to commentate on it, and I also have goals of bringing this to Western Michigan University. I'm actively trying to start a team right now. There's more collegiate esports for fighting games getting there, and I think with Capcom doing the Capcom Pro Tour with the $2 million payout, there's a higher chance of me being able to merge these two worlds that I love so much. My job of working at a college or working at a university and helping young adults be the best versions of themselves via the avatar, the conduit of fighting games or video games, esports, Rocket League, Overwatch, Valorant, all that kind of good stuff. I want to bring Street Fighter into that because I'm so familiar with Street Fighter versus any other game that I really feel like I could train some great players and have a strong team. Our Rocket League team is killer right now. That's the one game that I do coach, and I have some great players on the team. I lost a great one because they graduated, which is a great thing. But I also am a coach, so I have to focus on the team as well. I have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to the esports program. So one of those is coaching. One of those is tournament organizing or event organizing and revenue generation. So I do want to master that skill because it also gives me the opportunity to compete at my own venue and do commentary and all that kind of stuff without having to travel, because I love fighting game tournaments and sometimes I don't want to travel. And luckily there's a lot more local stuff happening, which shout out to the Kalamazoo FGC. Make sure you go join the Discord. Should be a link right in the chat if you're interested, if you're watching this live, or a link in the description if you're watching this on either YouTube or a podcasting app. So yeah, when it comes to Street Fighter 6, I don't yet have a goal for the game specifically other than being able to play at a high level and really getting a well-rounded knowledge of the different characters. But I want to be able to make time to play this game consistently so that I can get to a high level, whether it be a half an hour a day, an hour a day, or every other day. I want a consistent schedule because that consistency is incredibly important. And I want that. I know that I'm at the age of 35, right? And I think that a younger me thought that it was immature to want to make a career off of fighting games or video games in general. But I've done that. I have a career where I have a decent salary. I'm helping people. I'm making events that are one of a kind. I'm forming teams that are some of the best in the region. I do that. And I want to continue to do that. And I want to put fighting games on a platform. And I want to bring Kalamazoo into that light when it comes to fighting games and esports in general. So I'm getting there. I have a long way to go, and I think Street Fighter continues to play a part in my life. Street Fighter 6, I think, is going to be the same, and I think it can help elevate my career to the next level once again. I have no intention of leaving this job anytime soon. I have a lot of goals for this position, but I also have a lot of goals outside of this position, outside of the university, that I want to continue to grow. So that is where I'm at right now. That's how Street Fighter 5 has been a huge impact on me, how I got my first win and led to many more victories in terms of tournaments in Street Fighter 5 and even other fighting games like Dragon Ball FighterZ. Street Fighter 5 is how I'm where I'm at now to a degree, because Street Fighter 5 was a very popular game, and a lot of the success of the scene was because of Street Fighter 5 and because I got to travel and compete and make friends in different regions, and they came to my venue. So I'm going to miss this game is what I'm saying. I appreciate it for what it is. I grew as this game grew, and I'm going to continue to grow with the game. I'm excited for Street Fighter 6. I can't wait to play it. I'm going to be a little bit busy around the time that game comes out, but I'm going to try to make time day one to play the game. And I think I'm going to stream most of my time playing it, similar to what I did with DNF Duel. But I need to really reflect on why I'm doing it, what I want to be doing, and being consistent with that, right? Not just hopping on ranked, not just, labbing one thing for an hour. I want to make sure that I'm being efficient with my time. So I got to reflect on that. I got to think about that. But nonetheless, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. If you're watching it live, I really appreciate you guys, and I'm down to have a little bit of a conversation before I hop off. And if you're watching this on a podcasting app like on Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, Music, thank you guys for listening, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this episode. How has Street Fighter 5 impacted you? I'd love to hear your stories about this game. There's a lot of hate out there, and I don't want to contribute to that, right? I try to minimize any sort of drama or hate. Like, I don't think it's a rose-tinted glasses kind of situation. I don't think you have to constantly be hating on something to get some clout in here or to contribute to the conversation. I think that's not really productive. I think that's reductive a lot of times. Not just criticism, but just dunking on something just because it's a popular thing or the hot take thing to do, whatever it may be. So again, let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.